This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
What's up, guys? Comic Kid 84 here, coming at you. With a little video, a little discussion. The season of Wandavision is over. It's in the books. And, going through this experience of watching this show, I feel like I've learned a few things about the landscape of what the Disney Plus era is going to be like. Okay, and there are 5 main takeaways that I've gathered from this season of WandaVision. So this isn't. I guess there may be some spoilers in this video, but this is not any kind of like in-depth analysis of the events of the show and what happened here and there. You'll see this is almost separate from that. This is about the implications of that show. Okay. 5 things. Number 1 is with the onset of Disney Plus TV shows. This is the first time that we've seen the world of Marvel, which thus far we've been accustomed to seeing Marvel proper MCU product in the movie version. This is the first time that we got big budget Marvel in TV land, right? And part of what that's going to mean is there's going to be heavy theory crafting going on with MCU properties, more so than before. So all these MCU films have already been, it's so ripe for theory crafting, okay? And we've been doing that all this time with movies. Like a lot of times comic collectors, we really lean into this because we like staying ahead of collecting the books that tie to the movie franchises, right? But in reality, this is not a unique thing to comic book collectors. There's a whole world of people that totally enjoy theory crafting. And what I mean by that term is, because you'll see there's plenty of YouTube channels, Reddit forums that are all about like theorizing what's going to happen in the MCU and predicting what's going on. And those people have no interest in collecting comics. Most of those people probably don't even own any comics. It's a pastime that people get into when they're big time fans of a property. And it's not even unique to the MCU. So 2 good examples of this are these 2 television shows right here. So the theory crafting gets turned up a notch in the world of television series because it's not a one-time movie that gets released. It's episode to episode. You're getting dropped a little more breadcrumbs, a little more breadcrumbs. The audience grows as you go. And there is just a community of people that get together, discuss the episode, pick apart little meanings of a show, and try to predict what's going to happen. And these are 2 shows that I have firsthand experience in, like that theory crafting gears that start turning in your head. Lost was one that was totally like all about that. On internet forums, I think this is going to happen. This is what's really going on the island. This is who Jacob is. this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Game of Thrones was a lot of the same thing, which is almost a little more similar to MCU because there's like the lore of the books that is laying underneath all the what's happening in the show. Just like in comics, we have all the lore of our comics that's like feeding into our predictions of what's going to happen. So this is something that happens in, it's not really a movie. It's pretty unique to TV shows. Marvel is a unique property in that the theory crafting started being applied to the movies because we've never seen a series of movies that like continued to connect with each other. What franchise of movie is there that has this many connected movies and it's all building towards an ongoing story? Like, I think there's literally no movies that you can refer to that are telling like this big serialized story. So Marvel movies are unique in that sense, but TV shows is where this pastime has really happened. So anyway, I don't know what the compulsion is in fandom of us wanting to try to like guess what's going to happen in the show and try to like get ahead of the writers and predict, and almost like fan fiction shows that we enjoy. So this is something that, like I said, happens a lot with TV shows that have a rabid fan base. And Marvel, it's already been dealing with a lot of, we've been having a lot of fun with the spec and the discussion of what's going to happen in these movies. Now that we're going to get introduced with TV series of these properties, expect the theories and predictions to be like times 10 of what you've been used to. So that's my first takeaway from this series is, well, there's going to be a lot of fan theory going on, videos galore, like I said, separate from comic collecting. So that's going to be interesting. People theorize the hell out of WandaVision. Moving on. Number two. The number two takeaway is connected to this of the fan craft, the theory crafting of all the shows is the reality check. Okay, anyone who's taken part in this TV series theorizing always ends up with the reality check. And I think if anyone was fans of those two shows that I just showed, can understand the time when, like Lost, let's use Lost as an example. The fans that were watching that show were overanalyzing, or they were thinking more deeply into the show than the writers were. That's what we came to realize. We said, dude, we put way more time and energy into how this show should end and what the answers to the mystery should be than the writers did. And like, when you see them stick the landing, you're like, oh, that's it. It was all pretty surface level. What about all these cool hidden meanings that we thought were there? And what's up with that? And the writer's just like, nah, man, nope. Same thing with Game of Thrones. Like, oh, where was Lady Stoneheart? How come people were predicting, oh, Lady Stoneheart's going to come. Oh, the prince that was promised, Azor Ahai, should have did this and that. And when they stuck the landing, none of that shit was in the show. It was all pretty, I don't want to say surface level, because there's definitely moments of deep cuts and fan service that happens in shows like this. But with the conclusion of, spoiler alert, I guess, it's almost like anti-spoiler alert. The ending of WandaVision is what hit home this, number two, the reality check of WandaVision concluded, and there was no secret cameo. There was no hidden big bad guy. No characters were revealed in the show that weren't part of the story as early as episode 3. 3 or 4. Quicksilver didn't pan out to be anything more than just like another random resident of Westview. There was no X-Men connection. There was no Mephisto nightmare connection. Nothing. That's not a criticism of the show. I liked the finale. They just gave you the origin, a really solid origin of Scarlet Witch. And it's a reminder to people that the writers of these shows, they're not thinking about all these. They don't write shows like this to be filled with boom, surprise, twist, ending. Guess who we introduced? This person. You guys are going to get a kick out of it when we bring Mephisto in. They're not writing the show for us. These are Hollywood writers that when they sit down and they write a script, they're thinking 3-act structure. They're thinking character development. Like, they're not pulling out all the secret twists to make diehard comic book fans gasp. Like, they're just kind of... Don't be surprised when stuff is, like, surface level. And I think we should get used to that, of these secret deep cuts and these last-minute twist endings, and they're going to bring Patrick... Even me, I was like, is Patrick Stewart going to show up in the show? I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart's going to show up in the show. I think most of that kind of, wow, that would be crazy type of shit is not going to happen. Just like it didn't happen in shows like Lost, didn't happen in Game of Thrones. So, reality checks, ladies and gentlemen. I think a lot of these shows are going to be written for a more mainstream audience than us. So that's another takeaway. Takeaway number 3 is, even though they're not going to, I don't think we should expect these big twists and surprise characters and all that. Marvel intentionally feeds into this speculation. That's one thing that really became clear, is the interviews with the actors, Paul Bettany, the guy who played Vision, saying, oh, in the finale, I got to act across someone who I've wanted to act with my entire life. It was an amazing experience. Fireworks. You're going to be blown away. Like, it was so implying that there was going to be some kind of cameo from a different actor. And it was a tongue-in-cheek thing about him acting with himself. I think the girl who played Wanda, like, heavily implied, like, wait till the finale, there's going to be a cameo. I don't know if, like, a reporter, like, twisted her words or something, but they definitely like to insinuate things like that. Because the reality is, the more theorizing that happens around these shows, the more people watch. It drives ratings. They want you. They like to play coy and be like, oh, I can't say about when, like, other characters are brought up and stuff. And a lot of times there's nothing to it, little Easter eggs, like this show was filled with Easter eggs of, like, the Reaper helmet in the intro of one of the episodes, and little things like that. They're putting those in as, maybe little nods to TV viewers, but I don't think they're planting them for big time revelations, So I think in the Quicksilver thing, Quicksilver, they knew what they were doing, like making you think that this is like the X-Men's Quicksilver. They totally did it on purpose to make everyone go, oh shit, it's X-Men Multiverse. It's the guy from the X-Men. But in reality, they're like, nah, we ain't doing all that, bro. He was just an actor. Like, they bait and switched us on that Vision, on that Quicksilver. Which, it's fun, it's whatever. But that's definitely a big takeaway is, okay, they're definitely they like to trick us. They like to set us up for thinking that something's going to happen that really is not going to happen. Number 4, let's get into the comic book market. Okay, so I feel like I've set the stage of the workings of the Marvel studio and how these shows operate. Now, let's get into how this affects the comic book game, okay, and comic books in general, right? I think we're in for like a new era of speculation. I think speculation is in the next couple years is going to be like at an all-time high, because and this is unprecedented, because if you think about it, Marvel has never really had TV shows that people really cared about, that was important enough that it would drive mainstream theorizing and would affect the comic book market. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., doesn't matter who showed, Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes showed up on that show, Quake, a bunch of characters showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Didn't affect the comic book market at all, because it just didn't have an impact. People weren't invested in those shows. Same thing with DC. The DC shows don't really affect things. It's more movie based. The movie industry has always been what's fed speculation. And, so this is the first time that TV shows are going to be important enough that it's going to start affecting the comic book market. And that's unique because the cycle of content. MCU movies, how many movies do we get in the course of a year? 2, maybe? 2 movies, and it's just a one and done thing. You wait, you're looking at production photos, set photos, and there's like a year-long build-up till this movie's coming. Speculation happens along the way. Then the movie drops. Whatever, the movie dropping tends to affect the market based on what happened, if new characters appeared or whatever. And then it's another long wait until another movie comes out. With this TV era, each individual episode can potentially affect speculation in the market rising. It only took one episode to have Wandavision show up, and that book was totally affected by the market. So there can be an episode to episode effect on the comic book market in this MCU Disney Plus TV era. And if you see the lineup, look at the lineup of Marvel projects coming up. Some of these are movies, but a lot of these are shows. Hawkeye, Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier. And there's some that are not even on here. She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel. There's going to be mad TV shows dropped by Disney Plus. So it's going to feel like a constant news cycle and speculation cycle and shit, throughout the whole year. That's going to be unprecedented. So buckle up for this, because Falcon Winter Soldier is going to start in a week, and it's going to happen all over again. I'm sure some shows will be more influential than others, but I'm sure they're all going to be pretty banging. It looks like Disney's putting their best foot forward on these shows, and we're about to come into an unprecedented amount of speculation. So the upside to that is there's going to be lots of opportunities to, go and find books that are going to become hot, right? For those of us in the hobby that, enjoy the hunting and, predicting the hot book and flipping it, which I think is a fun part of the hobby. For those of us that take part in that and enjoy it, there's going to be lots of books that are going to get hot in the market and become more relevant, and we're going to have TV show content to make it more exciting, and it's going to be cool. I'm sure it's going to be fun. So there's going to be chances of books like that White Vision that are going to enjoy big increases in value, which, like I said, is good for us that like to sell books, maybe buy it low, sell it high. Great, right? The downside is get ready for a lot of noise, okay? How many bunk theories did we have to sit through during this season of WandaVision? Okay. With all these shows coming, there's going to be all these. This character might show up, and rumor mill is going to try to make this book hot and that book hot. And you're going to see shit like this, for example. You're going to get shit like this of our boy Very Gary here with this Cthulhu book, or Chthon. Where was Chthon at, man? Chthon was nowhere to be found. It was a total long shot. I kind of felt like this was kind of a low point for the Comic Tom list, which I generally enjoy. But I didn't like when I seen this. It was number 2 on the list, so that's a pretty, important spot, I guess. And it was just, there was no news to support this. It was just like this dude's fan fiction theory of like a real low level character too. Chthon's not relevant really. And I'm gonna crystallize on this on my next point of why books like this are bad news, kind of, hopefully this doesn't become too much of a trend of there's going to be so much opportunity for us to spitball and speculate, and people are going to be like, I got the hot new theory, and these books are going to start, rising in price, and people are going to be trying to flip these books, but they're just going to be irrelevant, And now that WandaVision's over, this book is, whoever had this book, and for like the couple of weeks that people thought this was important because this guy was spitting his fan fiction, you're sitting on a book that's going to be ice cold. Like, there's no value in it. So keep an eye out for this stuff. There's going to be so much noise speculation as these shows become a norm and they're on TV all the time. There's going to be a lot of that shit. So be careful. Which brings me to my last point. Number 5. Just because, here's something that I learned from this WandaVision show. Just because a character shows up in a TV show doesn't mean the book is going to significantly increase in value or matter very much. And this show is the perfect case for that, because we always make such a big thing if a character shows up, like this. Oh, dude, what if Chthon shows up? This book is going to be very important if Chthon shows up, as like maybe he was involved in this or that. The main character, the main villain of the entire series, Agatha Harkness. If you notice, why hasn't this book got hot? Like, throughout the course of the show, we've seen so many books spike. Mephisto became a big deal. The White Vision became a big deal. But the main villain, the big bad of the entire series, why this book never really was sitting on lists. I don't really hear people talk about it. In the sales data supports this. So this is Fantastic Four 94, first appearance of Agatha Harkness, the main villain of WandaVision. A 1970 15 center Jack Kirby, sweet I mean, that's a great era for books that hold value, right? 9.8, most recent sale, 9.8, $1,300 for 9.8. And not many are moving. I was scrolling through, I had to go to GPA to find that information. Um, Scrolling through eBay, there's like none of them are sold. And like this book is just not moving. And Agatha Harkness is the main villain. So main villain, 1970s, key of a classic title, Fantastic Four, Jack Kirby, $1,300 at a 9.8. Why is that book performing that way? But White Vision, first White Vision, who was, I mean, I guess White Vision had a fairly important part to the show at the end there, but not nearly as important as Agatha Harkness. And it's a 1989 West Coast Avengers, kind of a bunk title, to be honest. West Coast Avengers. And 9.8 of this book is selling for $1,500 on the regular. And there's multiple recent sales of this book at $1,500. Why is that? That's interesting, right? I don't know. I'm not accusing somebody of doing something. I don't know. But it's an interesting observation, you got to admit, of the main villain whose first appearance is in a 1970s Fantastic Four book. That book is not, it really didn't spike, but this book did. Again, I'm not sure exactly why that is. My assumptions would be it's one thing for a character to appear in a show, but people have to care about the character still. That's why, sorry to harp on this guy, I don't have anything against Very Gary. If you follow my channel and followed me in general, you know I'm not one of these that like, I got a hard on for these guys that make spec videos and lists, and I'm cool with the list. I like Tom's list, so I'm not one of those guys. I really don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So it's whatever. Again, I don't have a particular problem with Gary, but I just remember this. I just think that this book is a good example of that. Of even if Chthon did show up in a book, in a show, it doesn't even mean that it's going to matter. Like, people have to care about the character to begin with. Just their mere presence isn't going to make the book very special. And the first appearance of Agatha Harkness is a perfect illustration of that. You know what I mean? You can't get much more screen time and be more important to the story than Agatha Harkness was in this series. And I don't think this book is going to do anything fantastic. So I think that's a big deal. I just think there's more Vision fans than there are Agatha Harkness fans. You know what I'm saying? So I think the character has to matter, and Vision matters more than Harkness. The cover has to be dope, right? This is a sweet homage cover to his appearance in Avengers. That helps make the book hot. This doesn't have, if this had like a cool Agatha Harkness badass pose first appearance cover, maybe it would perform better. You know, that might be part of it. But I think that's a worthwhile takeaway of this book at a 9.8, a 1989 West Coast Avengers, first Vision, not even a new character, just a different costume, really, is selling for more than a 9.8 of a 1970s key from Stan the Man and Jack Kirby of a main villain. So, moral of the story is, just because the character's showing up, don't get too excited, okay? The books that did perform, the big winners from this show, as it relates to the comic book market, the big winners were these three books right here, okay? First appearance of Vision, first appearance of Wanda and Quicksilver, and Mephisto. These are the three books that, because of that show, significantly jumped in price and are not going to come back down anytime soon. I think that the effect of this show is going to have a lasting effect on the value of these books, and they're going to stay at the prices that they're at, if not rise even further. As opposed to this one. Notice I didn't put this book in this category. Because yes, this is another book that was affected by the show, but I don't think this book is built to last. I don't think there's going to be long-term gains on this book. In fact, I would imagine that the values of this are going to cool down big time as time goes on. Whereas I think these three books are going to enjoy an increase in value because of the visibility of the show and continue to do so. Okay? And obviously, the two main title characters had a big jump, and those are classic Silver Age keys, okay? And and the Mephisto. He didn't show up once in the show, right? But the speculation was hot enough that it made the book spike. I imagine we're going to see him eventually, I guess, but he didn't show up in this show, and it still spiked. You know why? Because this is a bedrock key issue. This is Silver Surfer number 3, Silver Age, classic key, that it was already a valuable book before the show happened. Before the speculation happened, this was a choice book. This one wasn't. That was a choice book, and it's an important key. So, that's why that one's going to build momentum. So, I think the main takeaway for myself anyway, and I implored this to you as well, is just recognize that there's going to be a lot of flash in the pan speculation increases because of the shows, and we're going to be bombarded with speculation, don't forget, for all these shows. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's going to be little books that jump here and there, and there's going to be flip opportunities, no doubt. But if you want to really invest in books that you want to hang on to for a little while, or you want to, have it be a solid investment where it's like you want to grab it before it starts to get into that unattainable category, you want to stick to books like this. If, like, what's a show coming out? I would stay with like the bedrock keys. If there's a She-Hulk show coming out, you want your first appearance of She-Hulk, and you're better off getting 3 copies of She-Hulk's first appearance than She-Hulk's first appearance, and trying to spec on what other characters could also show up. Maybe her friend Jimmy, the Red Hulk, even though I think the Red Hulk is actually a pretty good key. But it's the mainstay keys, man. You know what I mean? And that's why X-Men number 1 is going to jump. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of different little X-Men keys, but those big boys are the ones that are really going to enjoy the jumps. With Secret Invasion coming, like, Super Skrull, like the big marquee characters is where it's at. Oh, there might be some other flash in the pans, but that's my takeaway on that. So I think that's the whole video. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Recap. My 5 things that I learned from the Wandavision show, man. 1, theory crafting. Now that the MCU is entering the world of serialized television, which means it's going to be discussed and speculated on and theorized for people that don't know anything about comics, way more than it has ever been, just because of the format of television. Number 2, get ready for reality checks, okay? These writers don't give a fuck about comics. If you think about it, like Disney, because sometimes people be like, oh, they're trying to throw us off because, like, I've heard people try to make connections that writers or Disney and shit is making decisions based on like a certain book getting hot or whatever. Let me tell you, even though they're making comic book inspired content, the last thing that Disney, Marvel Studios, those writers are thinking about is comic books and the comic book collectors, because there's no skin in the game for them. Disney can't sell you Silver Age comic books. Like the books that are going to spike are first appearances that have already happened years ago. Like Disney can't sell you X-Men #4. You know what I mean? It's already, that's in the aftermarket collector market. So they're not thinking about comic collecting at all. They can barely sell new comics, let alone stuff that they actually have a margin in, let alone old ones. They don't give a fuck. So anyway, reality check. Temper your expectations of what these shows are going to deliver as far as these twists and turns and fan service moments. They're probably going to tell pretty straightforward character growth stories like they did with Wandavision. Number 3, beware. Marvel feeds into tricking us. Paul Bettany with his sneaky interview, the little Easter eggs. These dudes are playing out there, so you better watch out. They're invested in having us theorize and speculate because it drives viewership. So be on your toes with that stuff. Number 4, the comic book market is going to be affected by this new era of Disney Plus shows. We're going to experience a news cycle and a speculation cycle like never before. And that just means that there's going to be way more books that get hot and make lists and this and that than ever before. Just be mindful of, there's going to be a lot of noise, and you want to know which ones to don't worry about and which ones you want to think about purchasing. Because, lastly, number 5, just because a character shows up in a movie or TV show does not mean the book is necessarily going to become the next big thing. Agatha Harkness is a perfect example of this. So, boom. There's my 5 takeaways. Let me know what you think of the video. Do you agree with these 5 takeaways, these 5 things that I learned from WandaVision? Do you have any additional commentary on this? Hit me up in the comment section. I did this intentionally not as a live stream because my ADD probably would have been, my synapses would have been firing and I'd be getting distracted. And I wanted to try and deliver this succinctly, even though it's like 40 minutes long. But I hope it was 40 minutes well spent for you. And till next time, y'all, God bless America. That was the intro. Let me play you the new outro. Comic 84 outro.